Welcome back, my brave souls, or should I say reckless ones. This is where horror meets the gridiron, and trust me, the only thing worse than losing in the final seconds is being dragged into the locker room after the final whistle by something that wasn't supposed to be there. Tonight, 3 of the NFL's biggest teams face their darkest nightmares, and you'll have a front row seat. But first, hit that subscribe button, or your favorite team might never return from a night game again. I'm not the first to tell this story, and if you keep watching, you might not be the last. AT&T Stadium, home of the Cowboys, is more than just a monument to football. It's a towering colossus of steel, glass, and concrete built on layers of pride, sweat, and something much older than Texas itself. Fans call it the Cathedral of Sports. But no one wants to talk about what lies buried beneath the foundation of that church. Back in 2006, during construction, 5 workers vanished under circumstances that were quietly swept under the rug. Official reports blamed construction accidents, but where are the bodies? And what about the worker who reappeared days later, eyes blank, skin carved with strange symbols, like something out of a nightmare? No one talks about him. Internal reports, never made public, describe cameras shutting off by themselves, tools vanishing, machines powering on in the dead of night, and that sound, like dozens of heavy boots marching, far beneath the ground. Some say the stadium was built on an ancient native burial ground, a classic horror trope. Others claim the land once belonged to a cult that performed blood rituals, but what's certain is that since the grand opening, things have been happening, things even die-hard fans can't ignore. Players have sworn they hear muffled screams echoing through the tunnels, even when they're completely empty. A security guard quit on the spot after being locked inside a locker room for hours, where, according to him, a voice whispered his name from inside the walls. The Cowboys have never quite reclaimed their former glory, and behind closed doors, some veterans have started blaming the stadium. They say it doesn't just drain luck, it devours sanity. You might think these are just locker room stories, but I have footage that's never aired, because someone doesn't want this truth exposed. And soon you'll understand why very few remember, and those who do never speak of it. In 2010, during a closed training session, one of the Cowboys' newly signed players simply disappeared. His name was Marcus LeBlanc, a promising safety, fast, strong, fresh from the draft. He had everything to become a star. He was last seen entering the tunnel that leads to the locker rooms alone. Security cameras recorded him walking in, but none show him coming out. He was never seen again, neither dead nor alive. The official version, contract release for personal reasons, a cold, dry statement, no press conference, no farewell, as if he had never existed. But I found a recording, a backup file that had never been fully deleted, and what's on it is enough to freeze your blood. The footage shows Marcus walking, sweating, head down. When he passes through the metal door into the tunnel, the lights flicker for exactly 2 seconds. A strange sound cuts through the mic, like a muffled growl, followed by an impossible silence, the kind of silence that devours sound. And then the image freezes. When the feed resumes, the corridor is completely empty. No Marcus, no movement, just void. But that's not the worst part. On the concrete wall, where there had only been chipped grey paint, a mark appears, as if a hand had been pressed against the cement with unnatural force, leaving not just a print, but heat. The surface was still trembling, as if something was trying to get out. Several staff members were fired in the following days. Others requested immediate transfers to areas of the stadium far from the tunnels. Some spoke of screams at night. Others swore they saw a man standing at the end of the hallway, a man wearing jersey number 32, Marcus's number. He never played a single game for the Cowboys. But sometimes coaches say the tracking system registers an extra player during night practices, a name that flashes on the monitor and then disappears. M. LeBlanc. And every time it happens, someone gets injured. Coincidence? Maybe, or maybe, Marcus never really left that place. Maybe he's still there, trapped in some crack between the concrete and hell. It was supposed to be just another routine sweep. The game had ended hours earlier. The fans were home, the stadium lights were dimming, and the cleaning staff were making their rounds with carts and flashlights. But that night, a veteran employee, 12 years on the job, stopped dead in her tracks at the upper stands. She felt a chill, the kind that doesn't come from a breeze but from something you can't see. When she looked up, she saw it, standing still among the top rows of seats. A man? No, a silhouette, tall, motionless, completely still, as if it were watching the field. There was no expression, no face, but she knew that it was looking right at her. She called on her radio, but only static came through. She took 2 steps forward, and the shadow vanished. No sound, no movement, like it had never been there at all. The next day, she quit, said she wouldn't return to that stadium for 10 times her salary. But what shook everyone the most was what she left on the manager's desk. A photo, quickly snapped with her phone before she screamed. The image was distorted, but clear enough to spark nightmares. The figure had no shadow, and instead of a face, there was a crater, a black hole that seemed to swallow all surrounding light, a walking void. Other employees began reporting the same figure, always in the same spot, row 324, seat 12, a place that, curiously, is missing from all official seat maps. A system glitch, maybe, but no one can purchase tickets for that exact seat. It's as if the stadium itself refuses to let anyone sit there. Even stranger, in multiple night games, when plays are reviewed in slow motion, there's something there, sometimes a dark blur, sometimes a shadow stretching the wrong way under the lights. Small details, but always been the same place. Fans watching from home started noticing too. They comment, they message the team. They ask, who's that standing in the top row? But no one is scheduled to be there, and the security system, it no longer records that section. The camera freezes every single time. So I ask you, how many are watching the games without ever buying a ticket? Within the world of the Cowboys, there's one number that carries more than just legacy. It carries a shadow, a legendary number worn by icons like Drew Pearson, Michael Irvin, Des Bryant, and more recently, C.D. Lamb. The number 88 represents dominance, speed, glory, but few know what truly comes with it. A curse, subtle, silent, and cruel. Since the new stadium opened, every player who's worn number 88 has experienced something strange. Mysterious injuries, panic attacks, sudden personality changes. One coach, who requested anonymity, said the players' eyes would change when they put on the jersey, as if something was looking back through the mirror in the locker room. There are reports dating back to 2011 of an incident during a practice. The number 88 jersey was left hanging on a hook. The lights shut off on their own. When they came back on the field, the jersey was torn in 3 places, as if by invisible claws. A team physiotherapist once claimed he saw a reflection in the locker room mirror that didn't match the real world. The player was wearing the number 88, but in the reflection he was smiling, while in reality his face was cold and serious. The image disturbed the therapist so deeply, he quit the team that very day. And then, the strangest of all, an audio recording, accidentally captured during a live stream of a closed practice. Amid the background noise, laughter, shouts, a voice cuts through, deep, slow, repeating the same phrase 3 times. 88 is the number of hunger. No one could explain it. The voice wasn't any of the players or staff, and the audio frequency didn't match any known source in the building. The file was deleted from the official system, but some claim to have saved copies. The number 88 is still worn, but no player who wears it remains the same. Some report vivid nightmares, whispers in the night, and a constant sensation of being watched, even when completely alone. And maybe that's the price of greatness in Dallas. Not just playing well, but carrying a curse, one that's sewn into the very fabric of the jersey. They say it was a system error, a regular season game in 2017, Cowboys versus Falcons. Nothing unusual at first. But at the end of the game, something strange happened. The giant scoreboard would never hit zero. It stayed stuck at 0-1, 1 second, 1 moment, frozen in time. Technicians rebooted the system. Nothing. They cut the power. The board returned, still showing 0-1, and then a light turned on by itself near the edge of the field, as if someone was still there, still playing. Cameras picked up subtle movement, a dark blur crossing the field. Security was called. The stadium was evacuated, but no one was found. At least, that's what they said officially. Behind the scenes, some insist the footage from that night was edited. Something was removed. A shadow, a hooded figure running silently, not touching the ground. And when they entered the locker room, they found cleat marks on the floor, but only one trail, as if a single player had been warming up, alone. Since that night, at the end of every season, the same glitch returns. Always the final second, always at midnight, and among veteran staff, a theory circulates that there's a secret game still being played. A ghost match, trapped in that eternal second, a battle between the world of the living and something that resides in the stadium, waiting. Some players have reported waking up in the middle of the night with the feeling they're running across the field, sweating, breathless. They even describe the smell of the grass and the weight of the ball in their hands, but they weren't dreaming. They were paralyzed, eyes wide open, frozen. Maybe the stadium needs that game to stay alive. Maybe it's a trade, a pact sealed into its foundation, fed by screams, sweat, and fear. The game, officially, ended, but for it, there's still 1 second left. And until that second passes, someone will keep playing. What we've uncovered here isn't just about a team. It's not just about victories, injuries, or sports superstitions. It's about something deeper, something that pulses beneath the turf, between the concrete columns, and inside the empty stands. AT&T Stadium is an engineering marvel, but every great structure demands a price, and perhaps in this case that price wasn't paid in money, but in silence, in disappearances, in blood-bound deals. The truth? We may never fully know it. Maybe the game that never ended still plays every time the lights go out. Maybe every player who wears number 88 carries more than just a jersey. Maybe that shadow in row 324, seat 12, never really left. Or maybe it's behind you right now, watching. It all started with a sound no one could explain. Lincoln Financial Field was completely empty that day. No games, no scheduled practice, just a routine maintenance check. Technicians were working on the electrical systems, and a sound engineer was testing the stadium's internal speakers, the kind used during live events. He was the first one to hear it. It came from a sealed tunnel, one that had been barred shut with thick iron rods over 10 years ago, after a structural renovation. Officially, it was off limits. But that morning, during the tests, something strange was picked up, something that shouldn't have been there, a whisper followed by a dry, dragging laugh. The recording was saved by accident. At first, they thought it was just interference, a glitch in the cables. But when the audio was amplified, the truth became harder to ignore. There were words, disjointed phrases, like those of someone old or exhausted. "He's still here. Don't let the raven fly. Close the gate." The stadium's management asked for silence, but the sound engineer became obsessed. He returned to the tunnel at night, even though it was strictly forbidden. He brought a camera, a microphone, and a flashlight. He was never seen again. Days later, the security team found his equipment propped against the tunnel's iron gate. The camera was intact, but the memory card had been removed. The flashlight was still blinking, as if it had been used until the battery died. No trace of the engineer. And then, the most disturbing part, scratches on the iron bars, as if fingers from the inside had tried to break out. There's no record of anyone being in the stadium that night, but from that point on, something changed. Players began reporting nightmares about a man draped in black feathers, standing motionless at the edge of the field. Staff avoid that corridor, and in the dead of night, when everything is still, you can still hear it. That sound, the sound from the tunnel that was never reopened, the sound of something that's still in there. He showed up to every practice, but no one remembered signing him. A tall man, solid build, always fully dressed in Eagles gear, broad shoulders, polished black helmet, and the number 00 on his back, a number not listed on any official roster. Rookies assumed he was a former player brought in to assist with training. Veterans didn't speak about him, and when someone asked directly, the answer was always the same. He was already here when I got here. No one ever saw him in the locker room. He never appeared on attendance sheets, yet somehow he showed up in footage, sometimes standing motionless in the background, watching practice, other times running between drills, but always alone. No one ever interacted with him. He was like a shadow in the corner of your eye, visible, yet never acknowledged. One day, a coach decided to investigate. He compiled every frame the player had appeared in, dating back to 2012. What he discovered froze his blood. In every single clip, across years of footage, the man was identical. Same build, same posture, same uniform, no signs of aging, no changes. In one of the oldest recordings, captured during a 2014 thunderstorm, he stands at the sideline, completely still, while everyone else runs for shelter. He doesn't flinch, he doesn't move, just stands there, watching the field like he's waiting for someone. The following week, that coach was in a car accident, no collision, no impact. The vehicle simply flipped on a straight road under clear skies. The last file opened on his laptop, a folder named Player 00. Since then, no one talks about him. But if you watch the night practice recordings, especially when the lights are low, you'll see a silhouette standing still among the others. But no one looks at him, no one gets close. He doesn't run, he doesn't speak, he just watches. And number 0 is still waiting to be called onto the field. At the back of locker 19, there's a black helmet, glossy, flawless, always clean, as if it's never been used, or as if someone cleans it every night. No one knows who put it there. None of the equipment staff claim responsibility, and it doesn't belong to any current player. There's no name, no identification, just the number 00 etched on the inside, in shaky, old handwriting, as if written under strain. The coaches say not to touch it, leave it, it's not ours. But once, someone didn't listen. It was a rookie back in 2018. Joking with his teammates, he took the helmet from the locker and put it on. He laughed, posed, said he'd be the next number 00. 5 minutes later, he collapsed in the locker room. Seizures, eyes rolled back, blood running from his nose. He was rushed to the hospital. Doctors found no physical cause, no injury, no trauma. He woke up days later, silent, and never played again, never spoke again. Since then, the helmet remains untouched. What's even more disturbing is what happens on the cameras. Security footage shows locker 19 opening by itself in the middle of the night. No one in sight, just the door swinging open and the helmet slightly turning like something inside is watching. Then there was the janitor. One night he disappeared. His cleaning cart was found beside locker 19. The camera shows him approaching the locker and then static. When the feed returns, the locker is slightly open. The janitor was never found. Players say they hear sounds coming from it. A metallic breath, deep, steady, as if someone is still wearing it. And every time someone walks past, they feel the same chill, the same involuntary thought echoing in their mind. That's not for me. Maybe because the helmet already has an owner, and he's just waiting for the right moment to wear it again. It was supposed to be just another night practice. The field was wet, the air heavy, and the stadium lit only by the main floodlights. Coaches, staff, and a few players were doing light warm-ups. Nothing out of the ordinary, until all the lights went out. All of them at once. Silence. For 4 long seconds, no one could see a thing. Only the sounds of shuffling feet, tense breathing, and a crackling radio filled the darkness. Then, one single spotlight switched on, isolated, pointed straight at the center of the field, and in the middle of that light stood something. But it wasn't a player. The silhouette was too tall, the limbs too long, the arms bent at unnatural angles. Its head was covered by something that resembled a helmet, but with feathers sprouting from the back, like a raven in human form. No face was visible, just a still silent outline. When the rest of the lights came back on, the figure was gone. Some claimed it was mass hysteria, a technical error followed by paranoia, but 3 players requested immediate leave that night. One of them quit football altogether. Another was hospitalized days later with acute psychosis. The third refuses to speak about what he saw. The footage from that night is locked away, literally, stored in a secure digital vault under the label Corvo 4 file. Rumor has it, the footage shows something more than what witnesses described. Something that shouldn't move, but does. Something that shouldn't exist, but stares directly at the camera. And the strangest part, the shadow of that figure never disappeared with the light. It remained burned into the grass. To this day, groundskeepers say that patch of turf has never recovered. Grass won't grow. Motion sensors malfunction constantly, and birds refuse to land there, as if something is still there, or waiting for someone to return. Some recordings were never meant to be watched. One of them was discovered months after the stadium blackout. It was on a flash drive, hidden inside a locker in the team's performance analysis center. Unmarked, ease, owner unknown. The file was short. Exactly 88 seconds, no sound, just video. It begins with a fixed shot of the field at night. Empty, foggy, but slowly, a silhouette emerges in the distance, walking slowly toward the camera. The outline is familiar, tall, thin, wearing the same black uniform with feathers on the shoulders and a helmet with a rough, uneven surface. As it draws closer, something becomes disturbingly clear. It's not a helmet, it's a face with eyes too deep, black as bottomless pits, and skin with no texture, like clay, dried and cracking. The eyes don't blink, don't move, but you feel it. Anyone watching feels it. Something is looking back, judging. Then the image freezes, paused at the exact moment the figure stands just steps from the camera, its face filling the screen. 1 second later, the video breaks, fractures into static. The file corrupts itself. No system has ever managed to recover it. The staff member who found the flash drive disappeared 3 days later. His car was found idling outside the stadium. Door open, engine running. No sign of him. In the following weeks, fans began noticing something strange. During night games, on the stadium's big screens, distorted images would flash for a fraction of a second between commercials. A face, or something like one. Black, empty eyes, unblinking. Authorities blamed a technical glitch, but those who saw it never forgot. And the question that still lingers, was it wearing a mask? Or was someone being worn by it? Maybe it's not just a legend. Maybe the shadow during practice, the cursed helmet, the player with no name were never just coincidences. Maybe the stadium isn't just a stage for games, but a gate, a nest, something ancient, something that feeds on glory, sweat, and fear. Why is it, among all symbols, that the eagles carry the one of a bird that always watches from above? Maybe the raven was never alone. Maybe it's always been here, in the depths of the stands, behind a mask, inside someone. Or maybe you've already seen it and just chose not to tell anyone. If you made it this far, click the link below and dive even deeper into darkness with our exclusive horror ebook. Comment if you've ever seen something strange at a stadium, or if you dared to look behind the mask. and share this with someone who still thinks a stadium is a safe place. There's a legend that circulated behind the scenes at the Kansas City Chiefs for decades, a story whispered by veterans, avoided by younger staff, and officially denied by the organization. In 1994, during the preseason, the team reportedly tested an experimental play, something different. A sequence of passes and rotations never seen before, and Foshim, according to rumor, not designed by any coach. They say it was delivered in a plain brown envelope with no return address, left at the door of the film room. Inside was a single piece of paper and a handwritten note. Run this on the field, but never watch the recording. The offensive coordinator at the time laughed, thought it was a prank, but out of curiosity or defiance, he decided to test the play during a closed practice. No press, no official record, but someone filmed it. The tape became known as Play Zero. Players who participated in the session reported strange sensations, dizziness, disorientation, blackouts. Some forgot their own names for minutes at a time. Others claimed that during the execution of the play, the field itself seemed to curve, as if space had folded inward. The coach ordered the tape to be archived and forbade anyone from watching it. But of course, someone did. An intern found the tape months later. He inserted it into a VHS player out of curiosity, locked the door, sat down to watch. The next morning, he was found curled under the desk, silent, eyes wide open, staring. On the floor beside him lay a note, written in his own handwriting. It's not a play, it's a portal. Since then, no one speaks of Play Zero, but what few know is that the tape was never destroyed. It still exists, hidden. Some say it moves by itself, that it occasionally shows up among the training gear or behind the video monitors in the tech room, as if it wants to be watched again. In 2007, a newly hired assistant coach was reviewing old materials in the team's video center. Among tapes of training sessions and historic games, he came across a digital file with an incomplete name, Zero Movie. Unaware of its significance, he pressed play. The footage was distorted, grainy, but the play was there. That impossible sequence, sharp cuts, movements out of sync with time, players turning in ways that defied physics. He became obsessed. He spent nights trying to recreate the play with backup players, adjusting rotations, angles, timing, but something always went wrong. And slowly, the injuries began. A wide receiver who participated fractured his collarbone without contact. A linebacker suffered full muscle collapse at the exact moment he spun in the play's final motion. Another player had a seizure on the field while attempting the final move. Doctors had no explanation, but instead of stopping, the coach went deeper. He believed there was something hidden in the play, a secret pattern. He began drawing it obsessively on his office walls, formulas, coordinates, strange symbols, none of which he could later explain. He was quietly fired, and days later, he was institutionalized after being found wandering barefoot across the field at night, whispering the names of the 1994 roster in reverse order. After that, the name of the play was officially banned in the Chiefs' internal systems, but the last diagram he made, his final scribble before being taken away, still exists, drawn inside the back of a locker with a red marker. If you complete it, something will come through. It was during a 2013 preseason game that something strange occurred. The matchup between the Chiefs and the Packers was being broadcast normally, until for exactly 38 seconds, the image changed. The live feed abruptly cut to what appeared to be internal training footage. A fixed angle, an empty field, but the grass looked irregular, as if something massive had trampled it. The yard lines were distorted, crooked, misaligned, and in the center, something was buried. A lumpy shape under a black tarp. There was no sound, no commentary, just the static image, like surveillance footage. Then, before the broadcasters could react, the signal returned to normal. and no one mentioned the cut, but thousands of people saw it. On social media, reports poured in from viewers who paused and recorded the strange footage, but the clips started disappearing. Accounts were suspended, posts deleted. The TV network even released a statement claiming that no technical failure was detected during the broadcast. But one detail made it even more disturbing. A field tech, part of the stadium crew that night, disappeared that same evening. His last recorded activity was a screen capture from the studio archives labeled Play 0, Visual 3.8s. Investigators tried to trace the broadcast, but the signal for that interference came from inside the stadium, from a camera that had officially been decommissioned in 2004, and yet it filmed, it transmitted, it revealed, but what exactly? The first report came from a night guard. He was patrolling the stadium around 3:00 a.m. when he heard heavy footsteps coming from the field. Thinking it was an intruder, he rushed to the edge, but what he saw left him paralyzed. At the center of the field, under the pale moonlight, stood a motionless silhouette, too tall. Leaning forward, it wore something that resembled an old chief's uniform, but distorted, stretched, like it was being worn by something that wasn't quite human in shape. The guard pointed his flashlight. The light didn't reflect, it was absorbed, as if the thing was covered in a material that devoured light. Before he could react, the figure lifted its head. There was no face, only a wide cavity like an open mouth, but it didn't move. And then, in complete silence, something ran out from inside the figure, small forms, 4, maybe 5, crawling like shadows. They scattered into the stands. The guard fled, dropping his radio, weapon, and everything he carried. Since then, the field has been avoided during the early hours. Security cameras turn off by themselves between 2 and 4 a.m. Reports of whispers coming from the empty locker room became frequent, and some players, during late-night practices, swear they've seen fresh footprints, even when they're the only ones on the field. But the most disturbing report came from the groundskeeper, responsible for field maintenance. One morning, he found an oval-shaped imprint in the center of the field, as if someone had laid down there or come out of it. Inside the mark, the grass was burned in a spiral pattern, and at its center, a symbol, the same one drawn in the locker, etched in red marker. If you complete it, something will come through. The 2020 season was marked by many strange events, but there was one game in particular that still raises questions, not because of what happened, but because of something that shouldn't have. During the third quarter of a matchup at Arrowhead Stadium, the Chiefs' defense executed a rare formation, one not listed in any official playbook. It was a sudden rotation, done in complete silence, executed perfectly, as if it had been rehearsed countless times, but no one remembered practicing it. When the defensive coordinator reviewed the replay, he noticed something even stranger. For 2 seconds, one of the players appeared duplicated on the field. Same number, same position, same movements. 2 bodies occupying the same space, until one of them vanished in a slight visual glitch unnoticed during the live broadcast. The video was archived. The player involved refused to watch it. A few days later, he requested to leave the team. He claimed that ever since that game, he felt as if someone else had taken control of his body, that his movements felt automated, like watching his own performance from the outside. Technical analysis of the footage confirmed that, during those few seconds, the defense's positioning exactly matched the patterns of the forbidden play, even though no one had called for it. And so the question remains, if no one trained it, if no one called it, who was in control? Plays are just schemes, until someone gives them flesh, until the field recognizes them and opens something beneath. Play 0 was never just a tactical mistake. It's a pattern, a ritual, a calling. Now, it no longer needs to be trained. It executes itself, it uses the players. And when it doesn't find a body, it makes one, because the field has already absorbed it. And if you've ever seen something strange during a Chiefs game, maybe you witnessed a piece of it. And the scariest part, maybe it's not exclusive to Kansas City, maybe the next team is yours. If you enjoyed this story, click the link below and dive even deeper into the abyss with our exclusive horror ebook. Comment if you've ever seen something strange during a live game, and share this with someone who still believes football is just a game.